Hello and welcome to the Monster Mechanics Podcast, where we take creatures of myth and media and see how they can be improved. I am your host, Scott Paladin, and with me, as always, is the Rogers to my Hammerstein, Zach Jaquays. What are we talking about today, Zach?
This week, we're talking about the Sirens.
Okay, so the Sirens are a Greek mythical creature, most well known for their beautiful and entrancing song. In fact, it's debated exactly what the etymology of the word siren comes from, but one of the options would be something that comes from like to bind or entangle in early Proto-Greek, which makes a lot of sense. I think they're most famous for their appearance in the Odyssey, where Odysseus they were going to sail by on the ship, and Odysseus wanted to hear them, so he had his crew fill their ears with wax so they couldn't hear the sirens, and he was tied to the mast so that he could hear it, but then could not try to go to them, because apparently when you hear a siren song, your desire to be with them is so strong that you will jump off of your ship and drown trying to get to the sirens.
It sounds like Odysseus was kind of an endangering dick.
Yeah, that's like they had to go past the islands anyway. So like the safest thing would be for everybody to put the wax in. Although actually maybe the logic was somebody needed to stay able to hear, so you know when it was safe to take the wax out. Otherwise you have to just like keep it in until like you get back to Athens or wherever the he was from. Anyway, so I guess there could be some logic. But anyway, now they're funny to me because lots and lots and lots of people seem to think that sirens should be mermaids. In fact, there's just tons and tons of art from them. But the original Greek is actually that they're bird women. They're either women with bird wings, like we would think of as angels, or like a woman's head on a bird's body, like a harpy. Which I think makes a lot of sense because we very commonly associate beautiful song as being coming from birds, right? And so it's funny to me that, I mean, it happened somewhere along the game of telephone between the ancient Greeks and the modern Western world, right? Where somebody like made the change.
Well, I have to imagine that there's a couple of reasons for that. And the first one being that, I mean, Odysseus is out sailing, so it makes sense that, okay, some monstrous creature is luring sailors to their death with beautiful song. So it's probably a mermaid, right? That makes sense.
Maybe.
And the other one is probably The Little Mermaid, wherein the beautiful singing voice of the mermaid.
Yeah. You know, I don't know if the singing part of that is in the original Hans Christian Andersen version of that story, or if that's purely Disney.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know off the top of my head. But that it very well could be. That would make a lot of sense. But yeah, it seems like the Middle Ages is when that confluence kind of happened. It's also apparently when male sirens stopped appearing, because there originally were male versions of the species as well. I guess because the Greeks were like, male, female, awesome, we're going to bone them either way. And when it got to the medieval monks, they're like, no, if it's going to be sexy, it's only going to be female, because we can't possibly have gay sex, even hint at it. So these are an interesting group. I think we might have touched on them before in our mermaids episode.
Possibly, yeah. I think I probably was under the mistaken impression that they were mermaids.
I mean, everybody. I was too. As recently as when I last looked at the Wikipedia article when we started this podcast. Probably that's what everybody thinks of. Bird women are interesting, though. I do like them being on islands makes sense, because birds tend to sometimes will be the only creature that lives on a particular island. You know, it'll be you'll find these tiny little like rocks in the sea that are there's literally barren. There's no even vegetation on them, but there'll be birds nesting there and stuff. So that makes sense. I am kind of intrigued by the idea of them being actually kind of multi-species, like of there being different versions of the mermaids. Not mermaids. Of there being different versions of the sirens. You know, there is a mermaid siren. There is a harpy siren. Yeah. The idea we talked about before off mic was the idea that, you know, it's not the sirens, it's the song. Like the siren is the song that lives inside of them.
Which I think is a really cool idea.
Yeah, it's like a mimetic creature. It's one that like lives inside of this. I had the idea of a mimetic cordyceps, like it infects people's brains and causes them to do stuff. That's cool. Yeah, let's play around with that space a little bit. This is a virus that moves from brain to brain, infecting creatures. And that's why that would explain why you get both harpy sirens and depictions of mermaid sirens, is because these just happen to be like likely hosts for this virus. And in them, perhaps the virus is not fatal in the way that it might be in humans. Like this is one of those, like lots of diseases in the species in which they originate are harmless. Like they don't even react to them. But then when they cross species, that's when they become very, very deadly sometimes. Almost every great plague, including the one that we are still in the aftermath of right now, every great plague started in some sort of animal that lives closely with humans and then transferred over. So that would make sense. So maybe it's something about like, in this case, it could be that like maybe the siren song, the creature itself doesn't understand. Like maybe it's about the mode of transportation. Like it expects a flying or swimming creature, and that like when it gets inside of a human, it like tries to make the human act like a harpy or mermaid and tries to like, they try to go flying and they end up killing themselves.
Because I was just about to wonder, like, what's the advantage of like infecting a creature and like spreading yourself to something that just immediately kills itself?
Yeah, well, it's accidental, right? Like they're up on their rocks. And that makes sense why the mermaids are up on the rocks, is because you can't sing underwater quite so well. Or maybe not. You like whales do that really well though. Yeah. So maybe there is a version of
harpy whales sounds amazing.
Oh yes. Siren whales. Yeah. I like that. Because whale song can go like halfway around the globe at certain frequencies. So yeah, the siren song. What if it was made by the whales? Maybe this is a thing they it's a virus they created for something.
Interesting.
So like we're in the world that we're imagining here, we have whales are like not just sentient, but like they're song hackers. Like they are incredibly good at managing this kind of information through sound and creating like information that can propagate inside brains and stuff. And let's just say that the whales were in a contentious relationship with the merfolk, let's say. Like they were either at war or like in a Cold War situation or like competing for resources. And so they developed this thing that was meant to attack them maybe, or maybe it was to get them to do something it's supposed to modify their behavior somehow or inhibit them or something. Maybe even it's meant to be a non-lethal weapon. Like if they don't want to kill the mermaids, like that would be easy, right? Like you go to war with the mermaids, you like crush their cities, you eat them or whatever. But these are whales. They're like, no, we want to be non-violent. Let's not get into it. If it had been dolphins, the dolphins definitely would have gone for genocide. Because if we've learned anything, it's that dolphins are fucking psychopaths.
They really are.
Sorry for the aside, guys. If you want to go look it up, find out like male dolphins will kill. What was it? They were found to be killing porpoises on purpose just for the heck of it because it seemed to be fun. And then somebody proposed that no, it's actually because they're using the porpoises as target practice so that they can be more efficient at killing young dolphins.
Jesus.
Yeah. Anyway, that aside. So the whales, on the other hand, are not nearly so amoral and are actually trying to like de-escalate the situation. So they develop a viral song that they then sing, and that gets into the mermaid population. And it's meant to, I don't know, like it's got to be something about like inhibiting whatever resource competing or something like that, or it I'm not sure exactly what it was meant to do. But in the mermaids, at least, it like doesn't like cause problems for them, or it does cause problems, but it doesn't like kill them. You know, like it self-propagates. But when it gets up on the surface and gets to humans, that's when things go crazy.
Interesting. Yeah, I like the idea that like maybe like I like the idea that it's like some sort of population control.
Okay. Ooh, I got a proposal.
Yeah, go for it.
It's actually designed to teach mermaids whale song. That was the original purpose of it.
Okay.
So like they encountered this other species and they couldn't communicate with them. They're like, this isn't working for us. We don't have the tools necessary. It's going to take too long for us to develop an interspecies Rolodex dictionary, where we're going to be able to understand one another. So instead, the whales develop a song that they sing at the mermaids, and it like gets into their head and starts teaching them whale song.
Okay. I also like the idea, because I will always go for the body horror angle if at all possible.
Okay.
That it starts in like modifying the creature to actually be able to produce it.
Yeah, sure.
So
Like gets in there and starts rewriting their DNA. That's cool. Okay, so maybe like the initial population of merfolk, maybe they weren't like full half fish. Maybe the original merfolk that the whales like injected this song into were more like,
they were like the Atlanteans or something. They were just
yeah. Or I was thinking kind of like swamp folk, like they're like amphibious, like they weren't completely one. They kind of had that living in both worlds thing, and they were living in like the shallow brackish waters on the coasts, and then the whales essentially domesticate the merfolk. Like they come in and they like send them this whale song, which like teaches them whale song, and then also starts to modify their phenotype so that they become better adapted to living as companions with the whales. So they can like they get the single tail in the back, and they develop more extensive. Maybe in this world the merfolk aren't fully, they can't breathe water necessarily, but like whales, they just have an incredible like ability to dive and stay under for very long periods of time. Just as to sort of mimic, they're like becoming more whale-like, as it were. And then, so like this is something that was introduced into this population as like a method of modifying them to make them more, maybe it could have even been an uplifting situation where like the original merfolk weren't sentient, and then like they're basically animals, like apes or something like that, swamp apes. And, the whales come along and like introduce this like genetically modifying viral song into their population
and basically grant them civilization.
Yeah, which like makes them sort of like their children, basically. Like it like brings out this other population who are like in early days like pets, and then later on are companions, and like they do the things that the whales can't handle and rely on the whales for other resources and stuff.
So these are the scions of Leviathan.
Yeah. I love that. That's really cool. And they have like you end up with this deep interconnected relationship where the merfolk and the whales are like relying on one another, and they like co-evolve maybe. Like if this is a world where songs can modify your body, then maybe this interconnect, like once they get to the level where they can start modifying the song, the merfolk are able to change parts of it, which then also start modifying the whales. Like it becomes this like back and forth relationship. It starts off in one direction, but then the merfolk actually start like introducing their own melodies into it.
Yeah.
That further, that's like creates a loop where these two groups are growing together.
Or maybe the song was like, it was never meant to expand beyond the merfolk.
Yeah,
and this was sort
exactly.
of like
that's what I'm thinking.
Like an unintended consequence of it was like when the merfolk surface and like they start singing, birds hear it.
Yeah.
And now they start adapting to become more merfolk-like.
Yes, and which is how you get the harpies.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I love that. Where they come up above the surface because they're not truly, like they're underwater adapted, but they don't breathe water. So they still have to come up to the surface. They still have to spend a fair amount of time there. And in the process, there are lots and lots and lots of birds that are like built-in mimics, right? Like the corvids are like this, parrots are like this. There's a bunch of them out there that will hear a song and just naturally want to like, repeat it. And so, okay, which one? Let's commit to one of those two. Which do you want? Parrot harpies or corvid harpies?
Oh, I love corvid harpies. Like I just love the idea.
I asked because it was a possibility that you would say the other one, but like I was seriously being like, no, that's what I would choose.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like it's very obvious.
Like I just love the idea of like corvid harpies.
Yeah. I'm all about that shit. Okay, so yeah, like they come up on the coasts or whatever, and they meet the local crows or ravens or something like that, or magpies, and they start singing them, and the birds start singing back, and then like over time they develop more and more merfolk-like qualities. And because they're learning it from the merfolks, they're learning the merfolk version of the song, like the first thing that comes along is like the ape-like qualities, like these birds don't necessarily immediately become fish-like the way that the merfolk did, but instead become more like human first. So they get little human faces and like, yeah, that's gross. Okay. and they start to get bigger, and like eventually they get like both wings and arms and stuff like that, or like you'll see a little crow hopping around on human legs or something like that. Or although that being said, I do think the eventual, like the end of that process where they start becoming also kind of whale-like, also kind of cetacean-ish, would also be very cool. Like where you've got like I'm
just picturing like a giant crow just flying through the air and opening up its beak with just the baleen showing, and just like flying straight through like a flock of starlings or something, and just
that's so cool. I love that. Yeah. Okay, and so this is like this song is its own thing, right? Like I originally said that it was a sentient song, but I think more and more that that song is it is a virus. It is self-propagating, but it's not itself. Like this is a tool that these populations use now from what we're describing, which is very cool. And then like when the humans hear it, then like they're too close to the merfolk, I think is maybe the way it works. Like their brains are a little too receptive to hearing that noise. Yeah. But like, so they start, what happens is the behavior overtakes them first, and their bodies aren't ready to go to the deep. Like they literally, like you can hear the song at night, like if you live in a coastal village and you hear the siren song, like you might just walk into the sea and drown, because like your brain starts telling you that you can do this, that will be fine. Right. But what happens instead is that you drown and you die. I love the idea that there's maybe like ghost towns, like maybe like situations like Roanoke or something, where like the population just vanishes overnight. Yeah, or not even overnight, but like I love the idea of you're a trader, right? Like you're a guy who moves from city to city, and you're going along your regular route, and you get to this coastal town, which you were only at like a couple of months back, right? And it was a thriving town with lots of people in it, and everything was cool. And you get there and it's just empty. There's no one there. And like over the course, it wasn't necessarily overnight, but like you were gone long enough that like you don't know like what happened, and there was no sign of struggle. Everything's fine. People left like meals out on the tables and stuff. I love that. That's always creepy when like it looks like they just like dropped what they were doing and left.
Oh yeah, that's horrifying.
Yeah. It also brings up the idea that if somebody who, oh God, yeah, because I see where we're going now, because if you manage to survive long enough while hearing the siren song, you become a merfolk. You start getting the same modifications that the merfolk would get. And we're looking at Shadows over Innsmouth style here, where like suddenly you are listening to the song of the deep and becoming a fish creature in the process.
Oh, I like that. I love the idea that like there's like certain civilizations that are a little more resistant, so they actually start undergoing like the physical changes before they undergo the mental changes. Yeah.
I wonder what the because I really want it to stay dangerous to most humans. And I'm wondering what I'm not even sure if it's a full population. Maybe it's just like a certain number of people randomly distributed within a large population who like are well enough adapted to make the transition. Maybe that's the answer, like random chance, like something in your genes, or
maybe
something like that. Or maybe maybe you're like from a bloodline that heard the song a long time ago, and so the song has sort of been living in your blood this whole time. Oh no, it's not genes. It's cultural. It's sea shanties and other songs that like little bits of this whale song get out into the population of humans and become like they get toned down, and like a lot of the like important part, or like the dangerous parts of them, get stripped away, and like the melodies that are left are ones that then become popular songs and just move through the population. So like there are Christmas hymns and work songs and things like that. But if you live in a culture that has enough of those around, then like it is softened the ground, as it were, and like made you ready to make the transition, so that when you hear the uncut original version of the whale song, you are ready to like, go to sleep one night and wake up with wake up with extra lung capacity and some webbed fingers and just like disappear into the sea.
Okay. Yeah. I love that.
Oh, that's cool. I like that. Yeah. I love the idea that and then you're right. It is cultures that do it, because it's about whether or not the memes already exist there as a form of like, preparation for, these things. That's really cool.
So this actually kind of like, this thing propagates more by spreading like a culture of.
I think like what happens is that like, because not if we're thinking viruses, right? Like not every person has a reaction to the virus, and viruses mutate over time, and especially something that's mimetic can be changed by the brain that it's in, right? So like even in circumstantial things, like maybe we're talking about like a traveler who got close to one of these villages that had been infested, and everybody in the village is already singing the song, right? But like this dude gets close, gets creeped the out because like everybody is singing, and so like doesn't even get close enough to hear the proper thing, but gets like little bits of the melody, and then like freaks the out and leaves, and then finds himself humming it years later, like he's like, this is creepy, and he's like and then like that note phrase then like propagates out, and somebody else hears that, and it's a good little meme, so it like virally moves through the population until it gets developed into a song.
So what you're telling me is that
Baby shark could turn you into a shark. That's what I'm saying.
I was going to say that that Wellerman TikTok meme that happened shortly a while ago was actually just Sirens laying the groundwork.
Yeah, that's not even the best sea shanty. Like freaking. Anyway, sorry.
Well, hit me up with some of those better sea shanties because I'm hooked.
I will tell you right now, or at least me, I like donkey riding way better.
I'm not familiar with that one, but.
Really, I have made you listen to a ton of Great Big Sea, and that's where I know that.
Okay, maybe I'm not familiar with it by name.
Yeah. I mean, like the thing they say over and over again is donkey riding, way, hey, and away we go, riding on a donk. Do I get copyright strike for that? I think it's probably in the public domain. It's over 200 years old. The real question is, do I want people to hear me singing on a podcast? But yeah, baby shark can turn you into a shark.
Gotcha.
That's what we've determined. Okay. So do we want to talk about, like, is there other cool stuff that this mimetic song could do, like to turn people into, like, if it got outside of, I was trying to think, if it went outside of the human population, could it turn dogs into seals? Like, would it turn dogs into water dogs?
Are we sure it hasn't already?
I mean, maybe that's the origin. I do love the idea that this is sort of the origin for where mer people come from, like, and stuff like that. And so maybe other species as well. Maybe dolphins are just the like end game process of this whole determination, I
also love the idea that like maybe this siren song was like sort of the evolutionary impetus for fish to migrate to land.
Oh, like the reverse of it?
Yeah. Like I don't know
That
if there's
could be
any
cool.
meat on the bones there, but
Yeah, I'm not sure because there's no agent behind that. Like at least, or maybe, I mean, unless we go way back and it's like Ancient Alien kind of thing where like you have a monolith come down and make the changes or something like that.
Yeah.
2001 style. It's cool though. I definitely, maybe like,
No, on one hand, like I don't feel like we necessarily need like the whales are the progenitor race kind of thing, but
well, I was thinking like maybe it's a remnant of, maybe you have a race that or a species that's way, way, way older than any terrestrial creature. Like this is an ancient, billions of years old species, and their way of traveling through dimensions or from stars to stars or something like that is to send only information, because information is very cheap to translate. You can send the song out on radio waves or something like that, or manipulate things across a distance in order to produce it. And then in the original version of this, it not only changed like creatures into like biologically into things like whales and cetaceans and things, but also like made their brains into this the creature that created the song originally. Like it modified them. And so instead of sending an astronaut to another planet to colonize it, you send the song, and the song does all the work for you. And then you never go there, but instead like a few dozen million years later or something like that, you just start getting communication back from the new residents who are just like you, because you like sent a thing there to turn the creatures of that world into you.
I kind of love the idea of a like spacefaring parasitic race.
Yeah. And they're not even like truly spacefaring because they only ever send the song to a new place, but that like gets into the local populations and turns them into this colonist population.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And then what the version of it that we see is someplace where it never either. Maybe the whales actually are the aliens, and like maybe that's the version of the story that you talk about where like the whales are living in the oceans and secretly communicating across great distances to a vast galactic civilization. Or
I also love the idea like the physical form just does not matter. Like it's just all about propagating that idea.
Yeah. Or the version of it that we see that we've been talking about up till this point is one where a mutation happened when it hit the local population, and it didn't make the transformation completely, and instead got the ability to change the physical form of those creatures. And that like happened in the whales, and so now they're able to utilize the song as a tool, you know?
The signal hits the atmosphere and gets slightly distorted somehow, just enough that the information transfer isn't perfect.
Yeah, exactly. It's just and maybe it's one of those things where this version of the song was a copy of a copy of a copy. Like it's not even from the original progenitor race. It's from one of their colonies, which then sent out to another colony. And so like over each one of those transfers, you have a chance for it to go wrong. And most of the times, like evolution wise, most of the times that would go wrong and it would just fail. Like you would send out the signal and nothing would happen.
And
this time,
and no one would ever be the wiser.
Yeah. But this time it changed and it became a whole new thing. And it made the whales, and which, you know, if we know our evolutionary biology, whales started as like dog-like creatures, carnivores that lived on the coasts of the world, and they like slowly moved out and became aquatic over time. So maybe like they heard the original version of the song and became whales because of it, or something like that. Very cool. I like the idea that like whales, like it works well in that scenario because whales, again, like water is a very good medium for transmitting the information from whale to whale. So it's really good about them like creating a global civilization where they can all communicate it to each other. But then also like being a whale is big and slow, but you don't need to do much. Like you just kind of eat krill and like occasionally fight some giant squid and stuff like that. And that's kind of all they have to do. But like most of your time is actually spent like talking and communicating and having a civilization, you know, like most of their art and stuff is stuff that they just like communicate to one another. They're writing poetry and songs and things like that and just singing them.
Telling stories.
Yeah. Or like hacking the song that they all like share in their soul, you know, and like sending it out to other species and see what happens to them. And like, oh, look, now we made mermaids and stuff.
So it's just a bunch of DJ whales remixing a song.
Oh God, it's mashups, isn't it? Oh God. Mashup culture. Okay. Is there anything else we want to talk about? I do like the Shadows over Innsmouth body horror version of it where you turn into a fish person.
Oh yeah.
Is there could this be utilized by anybody? Like if a human got a hold of this song and started to make changes to it themselves, could they do something with it? Is that like
I feel like there's maybe like lesser versions of it already. Like maybe that's like where mimetic like song content comes from. Like, the human version of it is the Rickroll or something.
Yeah. Or just like the top 40 hits, right? Like it's the ones that everybody sees or hears all the time. So if you're doing this in a modern world, you could totally have an evil CEO who's like gotten this song into their brain and are now like they're seeding the ground by sending out like the lesser versions of it and all of those hits. So you're getting little bits and pieces of the melodies and stuff. And they know that when they release the uncut version, then everybody's going to become fish people and like migrate into the sea. That could be kind of cool. That's a neat plot. It's a little bit out there, but I like it.
The original version of We All Live in a Yellow Submarine was trying to lure people into the ocean.
Yeah. You're right. Okay, never mind. Idea canceled. So we're thinking that it like changes you personally. Like it's not a generational thing. It doesn't change like the next generation of people, but like actually causes you to like slough off skin and have scales underneath or something, right?
Yeah, I feel like that makes more sense, I think.
Yeah.
Because like this thing's never like known like it's never had biological reproduction, so why would it think to like imprint that in the DNA? It's just like
Yeah. And it has the ability to rewrite your like body plan like from the ground up. So that could be very cool. I wonder if there's a way that like could there be a competing version of it that splits away, or maybe it was a different offshoot from the original population that came to Earth, and then like would they interact with one another? Like if the version of it that exists in our fictional Earth, the whale song version of it, if that encountered the actual original song from the aliens, the ones that turns you only in mind into the aliens, like would those two interact with one another? Could like the whale song version of it infect the greater population of the galaxy, or would like instead it get overwritten or reincorporated?
I love the idea that maybe that's where like we get the Cthulhu myth. Like there's this competing thing that has, infected whatever Cthulhu is, and he's lurking and waiting in the depths below. Or Dagon or whatever,
Some sort of great unknowable evil. The thing that's got an intent that's operating on a scale larger than us.
Or maybe that's just all whale propaganda.
Could be. I do like the idea that in that maybe the original version of it, the actual like alien version of it, is that maybe that is the sentient version of the song. Like the one that we see in the whale version, the one that makes mermaids, is itself not sentient, but the one that's on the galactic scale is, but it's only sentient in the way that an ant colony is. Like there's a theory that like there's enough computing power in a colony of ants, like if you can combine all of them together, that they actually are able to sort of think like a human. But so across an entire galaxy, you have trillions and trillions of different minds that are all able to interact via this song, and together they create a single intelligence.
It's not a Monster Mechanic episode without a hive mind, but
I was literally about to say I wouldn't call it a hive mind because it's not a like in as much as like all of the individual cells of our brains aren't making up a hive mind. They're not all thinking in that way. And the song that lives in all of these individual creatures isn't itself it's acting like a neuron and not an entire mind in of itself. But then when all of those interact with each other on a galactic scale, it's an AI, an intelligence it develops across this distributed network of minds. And it's not itself interacting with those minds. It's like writing on their hardware, right? Like it's living within the song that's running through their brains and has affected them. And it has its own goals and its own desires and things like that, that's separate from all of the individuals. And they maybe don't they interact as much as I interact with my own neurons, right? Like they're doing that I don't know about because I'm the intelligence that is created by them. I think that could be very cool.
Now I'm just picturing like this galaxy spanning intelligence having a stroke because some harpy just like sang the song a little bit wrong.
Yeah, no. One of the memes gets too strong and the entire galaxy has to sing the Macarena or Gangnam Style or something. Okay, on that note, I think we're done.
Yeah.
I think we've wrung all of the juice out of that one with our various mimetic song ideas. So, on that note, bye.
Until next time.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Monster Mechanics. Monster Mechanics is produced and edited by me, Scott Paladin, and hosted by myself and my best friend, Zach Jaquays. All of the ideas generated during this podcast are released under a do what the f*** you want public license.